This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
When was the last time you felt inspired? Are you ready to take your passions to make a difference while living a life you truly love? Your host, Katana Abbott, who is a life and legacy wealth coach and certified financial planner, searches the world to bring you experts in the field of personal and professional growth, wealth creation, and mind, body, and spirit. So grab a cup of coffee and take that quantum leap you've been waiting for. Smart Women Talk Radio. The link to live with purpose, passion, and prosperity.
Hello, everyone. This is Katana Abbott, and I'm thrilled to be here. I want to welcome you to Smart Women Talk, where I search the world for smart women and a few good men, including best-selling authors, thought leaders, and change agents who are on that leading edge. So we have topics like money, business, health, inspiration, and the metaphysical. So today, we are speaking with Ford Motor Company's first female engineer and mother of two prominent sons, Suneel and Sanjay Gupta. I am so thrilled to welcome Damyanti Rani Gupta to Smart Women Talk Radio. As she's going to be talking about her inspiring story and the legacy she leaves with the world. Now, we're talking about legacy today because it's our theme. For those who are part of the Smart Women community and you get our monthly newsletter, you know that every month we interview two guests and we have a theme. Quite often, this month, it's the end of 2018. For those listening live, the theme is legacy. So today, Rani and I are going to be talking about her life in India and her inspirational story. And it's her journey to America, how that all happened, and what it was like to be the first female engineer at Ford Motor Company. We're also going to talk about the role family plays in this whole concept of legacy. So in a moment, you're going to meet Rani Gupta, but first, I want to share my Smart Women tip. So again, on this theme of legacy, I've always said, legacy is more than money. It's what people remember and feel when they say or hear your name. John Maxwell puts it this way: people will summarize your life in one sentence. Pick it now. Wow, that gives me goosebumps. What if you had to pick a sentence to summarize your life? Pretty powerful. So legacy really is one of the most difficult and important issues we all face because it has to do with our existence and answers these three questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And have I made a difference? I believe legacy begins in the heart and then it moves to the head. And planning should begin with vision, values, and your goals, rather than the more traditional planning that people do, which is around strategies, tactics, and tools. So when you begin your financial or legal or legacy planning without the heart, what happens is it almost always leaves your loved ones confused and not knowing the story or the meaning behind your legacy. So I think it's also very important for each of us to pass our stories and our heritage and our wisdom along with our wealth and our treasures. So how can you do that? Well, today our guest is going to share her inspirational story of traveling to a new country to become successful in the men's world, because this was years ago when she traveled here. And not only that, she is going to be sharing how she was inspired by her elders and how she continues that tradition with her children and grandchildren. So her story will inspire you and possibly bring you to tears. If you would like to visit smartwomensempowerment.org and look at our recent blog post at smartwomensempowerment.org, Rani submitted her story. and it did bring me to tears twice. So you can check that out at smartwomen'sempowerment.org. And when you go there, you can download my free book, The 5 Biggest Money Mistakes Women Make and how to fix them. And you'll join our community and you'll start receiving our newsletter. So now I'd like to introduce our guest. Rani was born and raised during a very violent time in India. Forced to leave everything they had worked so hard to achieve, Rani's family fled to Mumbai. Her mother, who had only a 4th grade education, informed Rani that the only thing that couldn't be taken away was an education. And with those wise words, her mother promised that she would ensure Rani received an education. It was a promise. We'll talk about that. Rani's first heard about engineering when she was just 13 years old. And it was at this time that she declared that her desire was to become an engineer. Rani was the first female to study engineering at her Indian college, and after graduating with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, she began work in Germany. Rani later moved to Oklahoma, where she was the first female to receive a master's degree in mechanical engineering from Oklahoma State University. After graduation, she moved to Detroit, where she became Ford Motor Company's first female engineer. Rani is the mother of 2 prominent sons, neurosurgeon and CNN's chief medical correspondent Sanjay Gupta and attorney Suneel Gupta, who recently ran for Congress here in the 11th district where I live, and how I got connected with her. So Rani, welcome to Smart Women Talk. It's so exciting to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Katana. You just described everything so clearly, so nicely. Thank you very much.
Oh, I feel like we have so much to talk about that I really wanted to give our guests an idea, like the big picture of how it started and how you ended up here. And now I want to go into more detail. And so I thought it was important to do that. And so what I'd love to share right now, what was it like growing up in India during such a violent time?
Katana, this is a very tough things to talk about, but very, very difficult to forget. The life you have lived and things you have witnessed as a child, you never ever forget. When scars from your body can disappear with the time, but the scars on your mind, what you have witnessed as a child, will never go away in your lifetime. And I'm going to share some of those stories with you, what I witnessed as a child and how I grew up, and with the help of my brave mother, very hardworking and visionary mother's help, I was able to realize my dream. So I was born in 1942. India was being ruled by Britishers at that time. When I was 5 years old in 1947, Britishers finally left. But that did not happen easily. The bloodiest partition in the world's history happened in my country. India was divided in 2 countries, India and Pakistan. My family lived in the part which became Pakistan. There were riots, unrest everywhere. There was no safe place to hide. I still remember that night when my parents had to flee in the middle of the night to coastal town of Karachi. Over there, we were literally boarded on the cargo ships. We just sat on the platform and floated for several days before we reached Mumbai. At that time was Bombay. When we reached there, we could not communicate with anyone. We had lost everything, and we didn't even speak the language those people spoke on that side. And we were referred as refugees. And go ahead.
No, so what was that like as a little girl?
Well, I tell you, it should be scary, but I had a very brave family. I learned a lot of things from my grandparents, which even applied to my life, and I think everybody's life in this world. 2 things they taught me. My grandmother said, learn to accept the things you don't have a control. Learn, learn to accept the things you don't have a control and work very hard, where you can make the difference. That was her first thing. And second thing she said, which I did not really, could not comprehend at that time, for a long time actually, that whatever happens has a reason, and it's a good reason. And I kept on thinking all my life, I say, how can they lose everything? And she's saying that everything happens for a good reason. Very powerful statement, right? But after all these years, I can tell you this partition, their hard work, their sacrifice paid off. And today I became a Ford Motor Company's first female engineer.
Right.
If partition didn't happen, my life would have been in that village. They lived there for centuries. My family would have never moved from there. I probably would have gotten married at the age of 16 or something. That's what would have been everything changed because we suffered that time. And they suffered, and we are reaping benefits of that.
And you were recently featured in Time magazine, and which is, I mean, they're called Time magazine's first women leaders, and it was because you had not only experienced being Ford Motor Company's first woman engineer, degreed engineer, but you had many other firsts in your lifetime. You were the first woman to study engineering for both your bachelor's and your master's degree. You have to share the story. What inspired you to enter this men's field? I love this.
Okay. First I joined after, we reached Mumbai. We wandered around from village to village, town to town. Finally, we were settled in Gujarat. Name is Baroda. I grew up in Baroda, and when I was about 13 years old, I heard in the school that our first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Nehru, had decided to visit our city. I was very excited. I wanted to go see him and listen to his speech. So that day I walked very early to those grounds where he was going to speak, and I found a seat very close to the podium on the floor. Yes, his speech was very good. He was a very good speaker. But what impressed me the most, he said, after 200 years of British rule, India has no industry. We need industry. For that, we need engineers. Then he looked at us and he said, I'm not talking to you only boys. I'm talking to you girls there. I'm urging you to consider this as a profession. And he was so powerful when he said that right away, it just, turned my life. That day I decided that was a turning point for me. I went home and I told my mother, I think I know what I want to be. In high school, I started taking all the courses to get me ready for engineering college. And I got very good grades and was admitted for mechanical engineering, which was one of the hardest line other than, we had a civil and electrical. It was hardest to get admission. And I was admitted in mechanical engineering.
You and I have been talking for a while, and the time you shared a story about your girlfriends wanted to go to engineering school with you, and you were riding the bikes up to the school. How old were you when that happened? And can you talk about that experience you had as a young girl deciding you were going into this men's field for school? Because you had an interesting experience, even the very first time you wanted to try this.
Yes. So after I was admitted, my five good friends from my high school, they were in the different college. They decided they will take me to my college that day for the first day. So 6 of us, we were on the bikes and very well dressed, of course, the first day of the college. So we were riding the bikes. We must have been about a block away from my engineering college. And all the students, they did not have even classes had not started. They were standing outside. They saw these beautiful 6 girls coming towards them, and they start shouting and yelling and screaming. And my friend just got off the bike and they say, we are not going any further. One friend, she said, hey, if you want to become an engineer, you are on your own from this point on. And we will just wait here and watch the show, see if you can make it. I looked at them and I said, and I looked at those guys. I said, this is my dream. I'm not going to just, go back home from here. So I went further. I went and then locked my bike, took out my books, and started walking towards the big crowd. And guess what? It was a pin drop silence. Pin drop silence. All these people, they were shouting. They didn't say a word. So I started walking towards them, and they just gave me the way. They just moved as if the Red Sea had parted. I went all the way upstairs, found my class, put my books on the very first desk. Nobody ever touched that desk. That was a reserved desk for me from that point on.
Oh, that's so exciting. So tell me, what kept you motivated and driven to do this? Because it sounds like you were the only young lady in this class, in this school. Is that correct?
That is correct. Very correct. And to tell you, there was not even a ladies' room. There was no restroom for ladies. It was a little college. So I had to ride a bike every day, 1.5 miles each way to use the restroom. But after just a short time, when the dean realized that I was there to stay, they built a beautiful ladies' room just for me.
That's like the movie Hidden Figures.
Yes. But so, then the boys were complaining. They said, how come she got such a big room? They said, well, she's going to encourage other women to come to engineering college now. But anyways, when I was 19 years old, I came across a biography of Henry Ford. And I was amazed that this one person, he promised to bring make a car so affordable with the concept of assembly line that the average income family can afford that car. Cars were there before that, but they were so expensive that only few people, rich people in the world could afford those cars. But he made it affordable. And I started dreaming to work for that company one day.
So you wanted to work for Ford Motor Company because of what Henry Ford himself did with that assembly line.
Yes.
So it's amazing. Deepak Chopra talks about there's no coincidences. He calls it synchronicity, or actually synchron destiny.
Yes.
And so it's amazing that, you came to work for Ford Motor Company like you did. Tell us about what it was like to be at Ford Motor Company and to be their first female engineer.
Sure. Very good question. So when I took my resume to HR person, he looked at my resume and he said, are you applying for an engineering job? I looked at him and said, is there anything wrong with that? And he said, well, we don't have any female engineers working here. I looked at him and I said, well, I'm here. If you don't give me a chance, you will not have any working for this company. And he said, you're absolutely right. So he sent me for an interview and I was able to get that job. So then...
How did these...
time,
yeah, go ahead.
No, at that time, I was just looking for a job. But then I found out that I became a first female engineer in the entire company.
So you didn't know that when it happened?
No, I just came for a job. I just was looking for a job. This was my dream job.
So when you applied for the job, they knew your background?
Yeah, of course. I had my bachelor's degree from India. I had some work experience in Germany. And then I had very good grades from Oklahoma State University, where I did my master's. And I graduated there in 1967, January. And I took a train directly to Dearborn, Michigan. I had no boots. I had no car. But I had my dream. And I survived.
So what was it when you were working in this man's world again, the only female engineer, their first female engineer, what was the biggest challenge that you faced working with all these men, and what did you learn from it?
Well, just like a few days after I joined, this one engineer who was quite a bit older than I was at that time brought me a handful of, he had a stack of papers in his hand. And he says, our secretary, Mary, is not here today. Will you please type these for me? I looked at him. I said, I'm as qualified as you are. I'm an engineer. I'm not going to type. So you had to set the rules from the very beginning. They can change you from engineer to secretary in the blink if you don't stand up for your own rights. You had to believe in yourself. You had to work hard, and they cannot cross the lines.
So you stood up to him right in the beginning. Had you not done that, everything could have changed.
Everything could have changed. They would ask me next thing, go get coffee for me, which they probably would have done it. Would have started treating me like a secretary.
Right. Well, your name is Damyanti, but you go by Rani. Can you tell us how that came about?
Sure. After my interview was over, my supervisor took me to his office to make me official offer. As he was sitting down in the chair, he says, "Oh boy, I got a big problem." I said, "Now what? After whole interview, you got a big problem?" He says, "I cannot pronounce your name." So he said, "If you can come up with your nickname, then you got yourself a job." I was so eager to get this job that I instantly came up with the name Rani, Rani, which means queen in Hindi. I said, if you are making me change my name, you better call me queen from the rest of my life now.
Did they have any idea?
Not at that time, but shortly after that, they found out.
So you're working at Ford Motor Company, and you're doing great. You're setting boundaries. Tell us how you met your husband.
Okay. In 1967, I had an old car, of course. I could afford only old cars. So I was driving through city of Ann Arbor, and my car wouldn't start. After I parked one place, my car wouldn't start. So I did not have a AAA insurance or any kind of insurance that time. So I needed some help. But then I spotted there was a telephone booth right there. So I went to the telephone booth. I was looking for some familiar name, from somebody from my state, from back home in India. And Patel is a very common name, last name over there. So first Patel I found, I just dialed that number. And the person who answered on the other end said, "Mr. Patel is not here. May I take the message?" And I said, "Well, I'm not looking for Mr. Patel. I just need help. My car won't start." And he says, "Where are you?" So I looked at the streets and I gave him the cross streets. And he said, "Do you see the building across, the tall building, University Towers?" I said, "Yes." He says, "I'm right there and I can see you from there. You are right there." So he and his buddy, they came down, and that person was my future husband. I met him in that way.
Now, you called him Mr. Gupta. I mean, you called Mr. Patel, but Mr. Gupta was with him.
They were roommates. And he's the who answered the phone.
Is your husband?
Yes.
Mr. Gupta.
Yes.
So then what happened?
Well, of course, that time they helped me with my car. So I left, but then we exchanged the phone numbers. And they even asked us to come upstairs, and they, have Indian people are very hospitable. So they offered us some, tea or whatever that time. And we exchanged the phone numbers and stuff like that. And the next time he was coming to Dearborn, Michigan, he, called me and everything. Then rest of the history. We got married in March 68.
In March 68. And where did you end up living at that point?
We moved initially, to Detroit for a very short time. I lived in Dearborn and he was in Ann Arbor. We moved in an apartment for a short time, and then we bought a house shortly after that in Livonia, Michigan, where we lived about 10 and a half years. Then we moved to Novi, Michigan, where we lived over 33 years. So we lived about 45 years in Michigan. I lived.
That's where you are now?
No, and now we are in Florida since 2011. We moved here.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah.
But I know you do come back to visit.
Yes.
And what is your husband does?
Well, we both retired from Ford Motor Company. He also joined Ford. And, we retired in 2001 after my 34 years service with Ford Motor Company. I retired. But I tell you interesting thing. After I completed 30 years with Ford, they had a huge party for me, 30th anniversary. And Ford Motor Company has a FCN, is a Ford Communication Network channel, where they play all the important news all around the world, wherever Ford facility is. So that day they were playing my piece every half an hour. My 5 minutes piece was being repeated. Next day when I opened my email, I got so many emails from all around the world, and mainly from ladies asking, how did you survive 30 years back? We are still struggling today in man's world. Some were asking me, are you married? Some were asking, do you have children? They didn't think that balancing both lives, professional and personal life, was easy. A lot of females, if they were in some kind of profession, they will not even dare getting married. Here, by that time, our older son, Sanjay, he was doing his residency in neurosurgery, and he was selected to be a White House fellow under President Clinton. Our younger son, he had finished high school, and he was selected to be a White House intern in the same West Wing under the press secretary. And our life was totally blessed. They were both doing wonderful, and we were enjoying our life.
So tell us. I know everyone's probably very curious that are listening, because it's obvious your family is very close, and family is very important to you. But and this idea of legacy is what you are creating with the way you live. And I know you're sharing your stories of what you learned from your mother and your grandmother. Tell us a little bit about your boys and some stories of when they were growing up, and how you use this to help them create their own values and help to form their lives.
Sometimes children, they don't listen to you, but they always follow you. So if you want them to learn something, you have to set an example yourself. You cannot just tell them to go do this and go do that. And remember, each generation is standing on the shoulders of the previous generation. If those shoulders are not strong, it's going to fall, just like a foundation of the house. So my parents, my grandparents, they gave us their strong shoulders to survive. I never saw them complaining, crying, or anything after losing everything, which I thought was amazing experience I had with them. They always prayed God, and whatever they had, they would thank God and worked very hard, worked very, very hard. There is no substitute for hard work. They were confident, and just like, when you see very dark clouds, that sun is going to come still one day. It might go for a few days, and that's how strong they were. They knew that we'll come out of this thing. And they did. Very successful. Those people are very successful because they worked so hard. Their sacrification, we are reaping the benefits of their sacrification today.
It's just so amazing when I listen to you tell these stories. And I mentioned how your mother only had a fourth grade education, and what inspired her? What actually was going on when she told you that she was going to help you get an education, and how did that evolve? Because you were a little girl, and how many little girls would have an ability to go get an education like this? Tell us what happened and some of the dynamics that were involved.
This is a very great question you're asking me. This even brings tears to my eyes. I was only 5 years old, and she was even trying to work. And without education, you cannot find work. And that's the first time they realized that, what education can do. And she looked at me and she said, you are going to get something that no one will be able to take away from you. And that's a good education. She said, but you do your part, and I'll make sure I'll do my part. And, she really worked very hard. She saved every penny. Even today's world, people will ask their children to go get the college loan, college loan, and here the refugee parents, and I'm the oldest child of my parents, and they had still 3 younger children, 2 more my sisters and baby brother at home. And here they were trying to decide to send me here. My dad was not 100% sure, but my mother, one day, I have never heard her talking to my dad like that. She said, have you ever seen me wasting any money? And he says, no. She said, have you ever seen me going out for movies or even gambling 1 rupee on the card game? And he said, why are you asking me such a silly questions? And she says, today I'm ready to gamble. And she is leaving. No questions asked. And she gave her final verdict, and nobody said a word after that.
Oh my God.
She said, get ready. You are leaving. She said, we have seen one time hard time and we are ready. And anything happens, but you are going to realize your dream. And the day I left Katana, I left India, nobody shed a tear. Nobody. We said a goodbye to each other very happily. She knew that I was going for my dream. And all she said, take care of yourself. There's somebody better than me is going to help you.
So how old were you back then?
The day I left, I was 22. And I left by ship, French ship Cambodia. From Bombay.
Well, tell us about that experience.
Yeah, Bombay to Marseille, France, and from Marseille to Paris, and then Paris to Germany. When I was taking a last train from Paris to Germany in the evening, 2:00 in the morning, my train stopped, and this conductor got on the train, and he started checking everybody's papers. And he looked at my ticket and everything, and he asked me to get out of the train. And I said, why? He said, I don't have a transit visa for Belgium. My travel agent probably did not know that I needed it. And I did, of course, I did not know anything about it. And 2:00 in the morning, this was the first time I had ever left my home. First time. And I was only 22 years old. We had no cell phone. There was nobody I could contact. I sat on that small platform. I can still visualize that platform, the one small light on that one. Sat there from 2 a.m. till 8 a.m. Bought a ticket to go to Brussels and got my transit visa. Came back, collected my luggage, and then I went to Germany.
Now, wait a second. You sat there all night long on this little platform. I can visualize this like a movie.
Yeah, it was like a movie.
And did you happen to have money on you that you could actually, so you had to go figure out how to buy a different ticket to go somewhere else?
Well, yeah, of course, this person, I mean, this might have happened to some other people too. I don't know. Because Belgium was very strict that time for that. But I was the only one who got out of the train that time. There was nobody else got out of the train. So it was amazing that I was sitting and there was one person sitting in the office. That's all. We were 2.
And that's not very safe for a young woman either, to be all by herself.
But remember, my mother told me that somebody above her will be watching out for me. I tell you, my life has been blessed. I took a big step, but everything worked out. Everything worked out. I think it was much safer in 65 than it is today. World was much safer, And I remember how brave my parents and 6 hours. I just kept on thinking about them. I said, they lost everything and they didn't cry. I'm supposed to cry now. I'm supposed to be brave now. And I'm going for my dream. So, I mean, everything worked out at the end.
Now, did you get to a payphone to call them, or you just kept quiet and figured it out on your own?
No. This person, I think there was one person who told me which station to get out and everything. He told me, he even wrote down. Of course, I was writing down each station as I was going, so I can come back to the same station to collect my luggage. I left my luggage. I couldn't carry all that luggage because ship, they allow you so much luggage. I couldn't carry again to Brazil and back again. And, I was walking.
Hey, did you say Brazil?
Yeah, Brazil.
Why did you
Belgium.
go to?
It's a capital. That's where you can get your transit visa.
Oh, I see. Wow. So then, how long did it take for you to get from Europe to United States?
Well, I worked there from April 1st. I started there working in Germany, 1965. And by January 66, I came to the new term was starting here. New semester was starting. So I came to Oklahoma State University for my master's.
Wow. And when you were in Germany, were you working in engineering? What kind of work were you doing there?
Yeah, engineering. I got that job from India. I had applied and got that job. I had my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering with very good grades from there. Yes.
So
again,
you're talking about your, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was the only female engineer working there also, by the way.
Again, yes. So, you were talking about the grades. Tell me about what you had an experience about in school when you were doing really well in school and you ran for president.
Oh, well, I ran for not a president, it was called FR, faculty representative, means each faculty, there were different faculty, like a faculty of arts, faculty of science, faculty of engineering and technology, those kind of. So each faculty had their FR, faculty representative. They used to be responsible for their own faculties, for their welfare. And I was only freshman in college and I ran for that position. And one other senior student, he also ran and we both had equal votes. So there was a recounting. The whole university had to close for one day for the recounting of our votes. Guess what? Again, after recounting, we both had the same number of votes. So our vice chancellor of the university, he had to make a decision now. So he came in and he took me to his office and he said, I want to ask you for a favor. Is it okay that we, allow him to be a FR this year? You are still a freshman, so you will get another chance. And I could not say anything to him. He was a lot older than me. He was like my father's age. And I allowed him. But looking back, I think, according to my grandmother, it happened for good. Because if I would have taken that position that time, I probably would have not done that good in my, studies. Here I did wonderful in my first year. And everybody was, the news in that city went everywhere. The first female engineer has done so well, So I think it just paid off. And after that, I got really more confident. And that's how I even dreamed about coming over here because I was doing so good in my school.
And you said something about didn't they always post the grades up on the wall too, which made it even more important?
Yes. Over there in India, those days, that's how they used to do it. They used to post your results on the big boards, I don't think they probably do different now. I'm talking about like 1959, 1960, that time frame. So, so all the students and then everybody will, good news and bad news, they fly very fast, right? So everybody, first of all, they were watching because everybody by that time, they knew that I have joined engineering college. That news, a lot of people even my city, they knew that this is the first woman engineer, And then when I got so, nice grades, everybody was so happy. And then they were pushing, actually my dad pushed my younger sister to go to engineering. He said, your sister is doing so good, you should be going for engineering now. When I was joining, they had their doubts that time, whether she should go or not, right? But
now, did she go into engineering, your sister?
Yes. Actually, she worked for Ford Motor Company for 30 years also. I sponsored her right away. Even in Germany, my boss liked me so much that he got her in Germany. And then when I finished my, master's, within 3 months working here, I sponsored her a year and sent her to college.
Oh.
And my whole family, including my parents, I sponsored each and every person. See, my mother was visionary. Now they hire CEOs of big companies. They look for people they can see in the future. And this woman with a 4th grade education, she could see in the future that by educating this girl, daughter even, those days was unheard of, that she will help us. And I did. She helped me and I helped the whole family.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic that you were able to help your whole family like that. I remember a story you told me about Sanjay when he was young. And again, he wanted to change his name. Can you talk a little bit about that story? Because it was interesting how you handled the situation. And I just think it's also just a great lesson in this idea of legacy and building values with family.
Thank you very much, Katana. Yes, when he started kindergarten, he was only 4-year-old. 3rd day of his school, he comes home and says, "Mom, can I change my name?" And I said, "Yes, I have heard that before." So I said, "What do you want to be?" He said, "Mom, I want to keep same S. So I want to be Steve." He used to watch a show, $6 Million Man, Steve Austin. It was his favorite show. So he wanted to be Steve. I said, "Sure, we can change your name to Steve." Then I asked him, "How many Steves are in your class?" And he counted, I think there were 4 or 5 Steves in his class already. So I said, "Sanjay, listen, now there will be 6 Steves in your class. And I can tell you one thing, that one of those 6 Steves is going to do very good. And then people will have a little bit hard time finding out which Steve did good." But the day Sanjay does good, anything good, people will know there will be only one Sanjay. This poor guy, 4-year-old, probably had over whole night. And he comes to my bedroom. My husband was traveling that time, so we were just 2 of us in the home. And he came to me and he says, "Mom, get up and go to work." I said, "No, I think I can sleep a little late today, right? Because we are going to go to your school." He said, "No, Mom, you're not coming to my school. You get ready and go to your work." Because I don't want to be Steve. I want to be Sanjay. If he would have changed, and he never ever came back after that. He says, "I'm going to spell my name. And if still they cannot say my name, it's their problem."
It's wonderful how you let him make the decision.
Yes. And he's very good in making decisions. And I think I shared one more story with you when he was like a 14, 15 years old, something like that. He won Outstanding Businessman's Award from Junior Achievement. Okay. So we lived at that time in city of Novi. So Novi News reporter, he came to our house and he wanted to interview Sanjay. And Sanjay wasn't home, but he said, "Can I wait?" I said, "Sure." So Sanjay came back from school and he said, "Sanjay, I'm going to ask you a question, but you don't have time to think about it, about the answer. As soon as I ask you a question, you have to start saying." And even I was wondering, I said, what kind of question is he going to ask that he does not have time to even think about it? So he puts a mic and all he said, "Sanjay, say something. Say something." That's all the question was. And guess what? What came out of his mouth that time? Life should be lived to the fullest. And one should not be afraid of doing anything you believe in. It made a headline news in the newspaper.
Oh my gosh.
And
that gives me goosebumps.
And he has lived his life like that. He has lived his life like that. He was skiing in Colorado one time. I called him from Michigan. And he says, "Mom, I'm on the top of the slope and there is no signal. How did your phone reach?" Got the signal here. I said, "Well, it's Mom's phone. So even if you go on the moon, my signal is going to reach over there for you." So he said, "I'm going down the slope right now. I'll call you tomorrow when I reach Atlanta." He reached Atlanta. Next morning, he called 9 o'clock and I asked him, "How was the trip?" And he said, "Mom, I'm leaving for Iraq." He was working for CNN and he was going to cover the war. So he just took off right away. And I didn't see him in 6 weeks. There were no phone calls. There was nothing. I will stay up late because of the time difference and see him reporting from Iraq. Then I'll go to bed. So,
how did you feel seeing him reporting from Iraq? I don't remember. I remember that war, but I don't remember. What was his role? I mean, Was he strictly a journalist, or do you have something to do with medicine back then?
No, he went as a journalist. But what happened? One soldier, very young soldier, he got hit by the bullet. What he did, he took out his helmet just for a few seconds to wipe his sweat, and he got a bullet in his head. And they pronounced him dead because those days in 2003, they did not take neurosurgeons with them. So his body was on the same troop with this guy. And he says, this guy's not dead. He's alive. He's moving. But somebody says, we don't have any neurosurgeons to help him. So we have to just keep on moving because it's a very dangerous area. And somebody says, no, wait. The reporter with CNN, he is a neurosurgeon. Let's see if he can operate on him. So right away, they contacted Sanjay, and Sanjay came. And believe it or not, Black and Decker drill. He did not have his tools. He did not go as a neurosurgeon. He sterilized those bits, and he performed. He used this IV bag to close the wound, and this person survived. And he's still alive. And he contacted Sanjay later on, and they have met a few times after that. And
he did surgery with a drill.
Yeah, and
you would use for lumber, right? For carpentry work.
Yeah, but after that, he performed a few more surgeries in Iraq. Because
they finally get him some medical supplies to do this?
Yes. Once he stabilized him, took out the bullet and stabilized him and everything, they were putting those people on helicopters and sending them to Germany or whichever closest hospital. Yes, he did not attend him after that, but he did perform the surgeries. And I think he did few that time. And he got a hero award from president that time, Sanjay. And it's still hanging in his thing in the office.
So he continued as a journalist, but then he also continued as a neurosurgeon.
Yes.
I mean, how did he do both? Because from what we know, it's so difficult just to go through residency and be a doctor.
Well, he is very good in multitasking. I can tell you that. Even now, right now, he's doing 3 jobs. In his CNN contract, it's a first line that he'll be practicing neurosurgeon. So he's a practicing neurosurgeon. He's a chief medical correspondent with CNN. He's a writer of 3 bestsellers, Chasing Life, Cheating Death, and Monday Morning, which became a TNT TV series, his 3rd novel, which was a collection of his notes from his residency and when he was a medical student. He kept all the notes, and it's a very interesting book, Monday Morning.
And the first one was Chasing Life and Cheating Death.
Yes.
Yeah, I know people will be looking those up that are listening to the show right now. And I do want you to spend just a moment and tell our listeners a little bit about Sanjay, because I've met him and he has such a bright spirit and he's such a powerful, powerful person.
You are talking about Suneel now, right?
I meant Suneel, yes.
Yes. Well, Suneel is 10 years younger than Sanjay. He did his law and MBA both in 3 years from Northwestern and Kellogg. He was nominated by Northwestern for Supreme Court bar. He is a visiting scholar with Harvard, and he was a vice president and part owner with Groupon. The time he was with Groupon was considered or was rated as the highest growing company in the country. And then he left Groupon and launched his own company, which was called RISE, RISE, which is a one-on-one expert nutrition coaching, which he sold about 2 years back to One Medical. And then he was helping them for 1 year because they bought the company. And he made sure that all his employees under RISE, One Medical gave them a job. He did not leave anybody hanging. He made sure that he did not sign on the final dotted line with a one medical till they took all his employees, not only as a job, with a raise and very good benefits. So he really takes very good care of his, people, our friends, our employees. He says, I treat them like my family. And then last year, when President Trump won the election, he decided to run for the, U.S. Congress at that time from Michigan. Hello?
Hi there. I'm sorry about that. I had to take a drink. So he ran for Congress, and my fingers are crossed that he and Sanjay will join together and do something to help our government with our health care. That's just, my husband and I were talking about that today. It's just a little dream I have. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, Sanjay is going to, do whatever he can, and I still have a very confident, or believe in whatever my grandmother said. One thing, everything happens for good. There has to be a reason, which at that time we don't see it, but nobody has seen the future.
Well, you are so fortunate to have had this wonderful experience, the good, the bad, all the challenges. Can you tell us how that is part of your legacy?
Well, I tell my children and grandchildren, the first thing in the life is to be happy. If you're not a happy person, you cannot do anything good to anybody, to yourself or to anybody. So first thing is to be happy. And happiness doesn't come just from the wealth. It's what I say. What you give sometimes gives you more happiness. I saw my number 2 granddaughter one time. We were there with them for Christmas. Her name is Sky. And I'll share this story with you. She got a nice gift card. So she wanted us to take her to Toys R Us, and she bought a very big doll. That's what she wanted. And she was carrying and hugging that doll like anything. And after that, they go every year to this church where all these orphanage, children, they bring children there, and people, they bring toys and clothes to, donate. And this other young girl, she kept on staring at my granddaughter's doll, very big doll. And you know what my granddaughter did? She went and gave it to her doll. Oh. She gave her her doll. And even I was amazed. I said, he loved the doll so much. But the smile I saw in this guy's face was worth not more than doll or anything. Yeah. She was very happy to give up her doll to that girl.
Isn't that sweet? Well, this is a wonderful time to kind of close our interview with such a beautiful story. Rani, it has been wonderful having you here. I had moments with goosebumps and a little bit of tears. What advice would you give to women today as your tip?
I would say, whatever happened to me in the country which we consider to be not as advanced as we are here. We have all the good things in this country. And that was back in 50s. We were a refugee child, no money, just a courage and hard work, and a brave mother. She brought my dream alive. We are all capable of doing anything we want. Just remember, you have to have a passion. You have to have your goal should be so clear that you should never deviate from that goal. You just remember day and night that what you are supposed to do. And after that, third thing is work hard, and work hard. There is no substitute for hard work.
Oh, so beautiful those words are. Rani, again, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Katana. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. For those who want to share this story, to share Rani's story and share our Smart Women community, please come join us. You can visit the smartwomensempowerment.org website. And you can access this interview and over 350 other interviews we've done. You can download my free ebook, The 5 Biggest Money Mistakes Women Make and How to Fix Them. You can take our free course, Unlock Your Financial Power. It's all available. There's no charge because we're a nonprofit. So please come join us and share this interview today with the women in your life. Next show, we're going to be interviewing legacy coach Rob Lucy. And he's going to be talking about how do you want to be remembered, how to live your legacy today. You don't want to miss it. So to everyone out there, this is the holiday season on this live show. I want to wish you happy holidays and safety. And until our next show, please go out and live with more purpose, more passion, and prosperity.